I'd like to call the meeting to order of the City of Monona Finance and Personnel Committee, Monday, October 6th. Would you please call the roll?
Alder DePula?
Here.
Alder Foote?
Here.
Mayor Moore?
Here. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 18th and September 15th?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any changes, corrections,
No.
additions? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 The minutes are approved. Is anybody here to make an appearance? There is no unfinished business, new business. 6A, consideration of resolution 25-10-2836, approving, that A is, we're not doing tonight. 6B, consideration of resolution 25-10-2834, approving the agreement with Vanderwall and Associates for comprehensive planning and corridor planning services. Doug?
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. So this request builds upon an item that came before, I think, just the City Council back in September. This is the effort to update the city's comprehensive plan. Just as a reminder that requirement by state statute is that be updated every 10 years. The most recent plan we have is from 2016. There's been discussion and support for this moving forward in terms of proceeding with not just the comprehensive plan, but also corridor plans that would sort of focus and be a little more of a visioning document for both Monona Drive as well as Broadway as well. So the agreement that you see before you this evening includes the scope for that, and that would be with Vanderwall and Associates. The city did go out for with an RFP for these services back in June, late June, I believe. Received 12 responses, and 5 finalists were brought forward here for interview, and the panel decided that Vanderwall and Associates were the preferred consultant to move forward with this. So since then, and since the meeting in September with City Council, staff has been working to sort of scope out the work here, and that's what you see before you this evening. I'll certainly can get into as much detail as you would like, but feedback really from the consultants is that this effort is pretty well condensed. There's a lot of efficiencies here with both the corridor plan and also the comprehensive plan. So a lot of the efforts are sort of joined together, meetings, data gathering, those kind of things. Feedback that we did receive from them was that things did need to get taken out to meet the $100,000 budget. And so 2 items are put forward this evening for consideration as potential additions to the scope, and that would be an additional public engagement, open house type meeting, and the other element would also be a public-facing website as well. So specifically hosted, put together by the consultant and hosted in a more advanced platform than the city has. So it's a little more user-friendly. This would be sort of a clearinghouse for all of the documentation for the plan, as well as ultimately where that could live, as well the document would live. And so those 2 items are respectfully requested in addition to this. We did, both myself and the city administrator met with the team, with the consultant team to sort of look into this a little bit more into the scope and any opportunities for cost savings. We did identify one item that was what we're calling kind of the take-home kits or the additional outreach opportunities here. So this is something that the consultant will prepare at no extra charge, and that's something that we had seen, I think, with other application or responses as well, that can assist us in reaching different elements of the community that may not sort of necessarily attend a more traditional open house, but we can also use that to be potentially facilitated by community groups and church groups and different entities as well. So that would be something that we would sort of gather that information. City staff would assist with processing some of that and sharing it with the consultant. So again, another opportunity, all in the intention here of as much broad outreach as we can get, public engagement as we can get, and having this at no extra cost appeared to be a good, a good win for the scope as well. So Putting this forward, again, I'm happy to answer any other questions, but I think generally there's a lot of work going into this effort, some good efficiencies that can be had here as well, but certainly recognize the significance of this ask as well. And I don't know, City Administrator, if you would like, just from the funding mechanism for this.
Yep, just a quick update on that I'm going to pull up. If we recall, there were a couple of planning projects related to the comp plan and some of the housing element updates that were originally set aside as part of ARPA funding. We had identified those previously. Because we weren't ready to proceed on this project at that time, Director Haudecker basically converted those funds into the lost revenue category of funding of ARPA funds and just added that into the fund balance. So that amount of those two projects that were rolled into the fund balance was $110,000. The project as presented here tonight, I believe, is $109,000.
It's 109,700.
Okay, so it does fit within that allocation that was originally set aside in the fund balance originally. So, and Director Haudecker has, if anyone has any questions on that, Mark is available online for any questions.
I have a question. As you know, because we've communicated about it this afternoon, I am interested in having, as we discussed when we were doing the capital budget, having some of the data collected that we need for Parks and Open Space Plan. And also some inquiry around the Civic Center to be included in the community engagement, because I think that the Civic Center is the community gathering place and as close as we're going to get to a Main Street, I think. We thought, and also because if we're going to be going out and engaging the community with this project, it's unlikely that if Parks and Rec were to do something totally separate for their Parks and Open Space Plan, I mean, one of them is going to suffer because we can't go back to the same well all the time or go back with multiple surveys in a pretty short period of time or multiple pieces of engagement. Do you foresee, with the way the scope is written now, any problem including that? I mean, I'm not talking about a deep dive into either one of them, but I am talking about certainly including that when we're discussing the community writ large.
I would imagine there could be some interplay with some of the land use discussion, just sort of considering future land use maps and things like that. And, the possibility, for example, of exploring public-private partnerships, for example, on city property and things, and that could be anywhere, either Civic Campus or elsewhere in the city. I would just be mindful in terms of it is a pretty lean scope, certainly recognizing the cost there, but it is pretty lean. So that would be my only caution, that it wasn't sort of previously scoped. But we do have folks from Vanderwall joining us for the City Council meeting this evening as well, so we can certainly discuss it there as well. But I think at a high level, I don't see an issue with it being integrated, but I think, and certainly there could be overlap for future documents and things coming forward as well. But I think too much of a deviation, I think, could certainly have impacts for the budget. That's the only.
And I think, Mayor, in terms of incorporating it specifically into the targeted community engagement, I think there's absolutely questions we can place in on that. I think in terms of make sure we set the expectation for, in terms of what actually, how much of that we can use to advance a concept plan for down here, for this area. And
right.
Part of,
and not
yeah,
expecting a master
yeah.
plan or anything like that.
Yeah, but I think absolutely in terms of incorporating questions into the engagement in terms of what preferences people would like to see in this area, or how much they value certain services or facilities. Absolutely, I think we can work on that. And that's even something in terms of we can stage that even as staff. I think to a certain extent, I think we'd be happy. And we certainly are looking at Vanderwall is very, very versed in doing comprehensive outdoor recreation plans, and this would essentially be another sub-area plan. A little different than a corridor plan. Corridor plan is primarily a lot more, more land use oriented.
Yeah.
I think we're looking a little bit more in terms of programming. Certainly land use is a component, a little bit more of a service delivery and other options that we provide. So a little different animal. So I think certainly having that as almost a next step, setting the table as much as we can using general direction, high level direction, getting some engagement from the community, and then setting it up for possibly, if we decide it's something that would be helpful, to proceed with maybe that as a follow-up plan to that effort.
I'd be happy to, yeah. Yes.
So, you're thinking we would add some money to the contract then, if we're gonna put more stuff in it?
No, I mean, I'm thinking that because I am thinking high level, I don't know that we would need to add. That was fundamentally my question is, I don't know that we would need to add money. I just saw this for the first time when everybody else got it in their box. And I can tell you that we had conversations about it when we were doing the capital budget and other conversations as well. And so I'm not looking for any deep dive. I'm not looking for a
Right.
campus master
Yeah.
plan. And I would hope that we would, since they're supposedly engaging around the whole community,
Yeah,
not just the corridors or not just
Right.
residential, that it would be easy to incorporate some specific questions, whether it's in surveying or other forms of engagement, around the campus and specifically around I can't honestly remember the process that was used in the last Parks and Open Space Plan, but like I said, it just seems like while we're there, while we're talking to people, that it would be a good thing to include.
And just
Yeah,
on that
okay,
note,
good.
just to be clear, again, Vanderwall has done several of these plans. They understand the demographic work and the upfront work that's needed to kind of help assess your population is
Yeah.
going from here to here, your housing
Well-
units are going from here to here. They'll be more than happy, I think, to work with us in terms of formatting that data in the comprehensive plan, so it's just a grab it, pull it, and then ready to proceed with
Right.
the outdoor recreation plan at some point.
yeah.
So,
I mean, I think it's a good idea if we're gonna go out and do the survey, if we can add some questions. And certainly to get a feeling of what the community's thinking about to build the government center. I think the park and open space part might be a little more complicated to do, but maybe, we can hear what Vanderbilt has to say about it.
Isn't there a parks component of elements?
there's a natural resource, well, it's community facilities and a natural resources element. So there are two
Okay.
spots where
Yeah.
that certainly would come forward. And again, it
And
certainly
we're
would.
going to be updating that anyway as part of the.
Right, as well as having our existing comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. Generally those, at least in my experience, and I would certainly ask Director Anderson for his feedback too, there's usually not a huge departure from one version to another. They're done about every 5 years
Right.
is the timing on those.
Right.
So as long as you're updating it based on, hey, this is how our growth has changed from last time, I think we need to make some adjustments on these types of things.
Yeah.
I think either we'd be in a position to certainly update relatively easily, either with help, outside help, or even at a staff level, or if felt we needed to hire somebody on, we've already advanced that front part of the work, so we would be saving considerable money to do that if we did decide to contract with someone.
I guess, I mean, I wouldn't be totally averse to adding, a little bit of money to this if it means we get a better plan.
Yeah, I can't remember, do you remember, did Director Anderson say 5,000 was maybe what he was thinking? I can't remember exactly which number he was thinking in terms of, I think Jake did have a budget in mind for if he was just gonna go out independently and do this by itself. So
5,000
it wasn't
to
a
do
lot
a
of
park
money,
and
no.
open space plan?
He
No.
actually,
So-
in the capital, in his capital budget request, it was 20,000.
Yeah.
Well,
And that,
I think that may have included, and I just would have to ask him, so that may have included some detail planning for Winnequa and some of the other campus things though, as part of that, so.
yeah, I.
Okay,
Mhm.
this is first read at
Yeah.
council tonight, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so we can, and certainly,
Absolutely.
and the intent would be to try to get some clarity around that between sessions,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
I did have one question for
Yeah.
Doug, too. Oops. You may have spoken to this previously, but how, like, setting these suggestions that we've been talking about aside, how is the plan, like, how big a component of the total plan is the Broadway corridor, the corridor plan, I should say?
So that's something that each of the bids kind of varied on in terms of, let's say, budget, workload, components like that. I believe Vanderwall was around 45% comp plan of budget and then 55% corridor plans. A lot of that, I think, is owing to the visioning and the design that comes with those, because you get a couple sort of visioning sessions and drawing, for want of a better word, renderings, drawings of what it could look like. So it's pretty heavy on that side of things. But I think from my desk, that's a big benefit to us. That key, it's the areas that we see the most redevelopment interest. It's of course where our tax increment districts are, and to be able to sort of share visions and what the city supports as sort of a potential path forward, I think is very helpful. So I would say the comp plan update is intentionally, there is an update. I think there are elements we recognize need to be updated,
Right.
housing being a key one. But there are other elements of the plan themselves that we sort of see as lighter updates with more deep dives in others. So certainly this proposal a little heavier on the corridor than the comp plan.
Okay. No, I think that's totally appropriate. I mean, as the only person who was here when we did it, the Broadway corridor plan, that was a huge effort. I mean, there was a lot of public involvement, and of course, we didn't have access to email, that kind of stuff to advertise it, but so you actually met in person with paper and stuff like that. So it was a really big effort. So I think it's appropriate that quite a bit of the money go towards that.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Let's see, this is, given the size of the agreement. This is
I would think a roll call would be in order there, yeah.
Alder Wood,
Aye.
Alder DeColo,
Aye.
The resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consideration of resolution 25-10-2035, consented to Public Finance Authority issuance of taxable revenue bonds for Pier 37 Monona LLC project.
I can take that one there.
Yes.
This is a request we've had from the purchasing entity who is actually acquiring the Pier 37 property. This is actually a financing tool that is available to essentially allow for a bonding authority outside of the city to participate in issuing bonds to help finance this acquisition. It requires the approval of both the city and Dane County to authorize that. It is the Public Finance Authority, and I could try to give in the staff memo a little bit of an overview of the organization. It is sponsored by the League of Municipalities, the National League of Cities, other municipal entities. The key, obviously, issues for staff was what are there any obligations or liabilities to the city? Attorney Cole has confirmed that there really are none, but it is simply a requirement that we basically have to authorize these guys to act as a financial entity basically for a project within our borders. So there is no obligation or anything to the city, but it does require us to authorize them to issue the bonds for the private developers. So there is no financial obligation to the city. It's simply an independent group that we were not, quite frankly, was not even aware existed until they brought this forward. The attorney, I think, who works on this privately is kind of a specialist on this, works in this arena. So these are taxable bonds. They are revenue bond, but it is essentially a little bit better interest rate than probably what can be gained through the private market. And I think there are other qualifying factors in terms of redevelopment areas and other aspects that certainly we can provide more additional information on if that's necessary. But at this point, staff is recommending approval simply because there is no obligation to the city. It helps. We are excited about the prospective owner and what they may end up doing with the property. There is no plans other than acquiring the site at this point, but it is a responsible owner that we're aware of that we think would probably be a good thing for the property, so.
Any questions about this? Doug?
Yeah, I mean, I'd never heard of it before, so I was like, what is this? It seems strange that we're sort of lending our name to it, but not, we're not to back it up with anything. So I looked at the statute, and it looks like you need to have a commission that sort of actually does the borrowing and stuff. I assume that this what's it called, Public Finance Authority Group?
Yep, they actually do
Is-
have they have a governing body.
Yeah,
If you-
so they're the
yeah.
commission. Okay.
Yep, if you go actually on their website, and it is considered, I think it's made up of public officials. It is a unique financing tool that, again, I've never, in my travels, have never experienced
Yeah.
directly. But certainly don't blame the opportunity to save whatever they can on an interest rate to take advantage of the program, so. I certainly was questioning it and, certainly felt better when I saw that, the Wisconsin Counties Association, the League of Municipalities have all endorsed
Right.
this entity, so I certainly felt better about that, and we weren't just getting sold a bill of goods on something that we really would have some sort of impact to the city's finances later on, so.
Right. Yeah, I see, yeah. Okay, just a new one.
Questions?
Nope.
I'll take a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries.
Thank you.
Number 6D, acceptance of general fund accounts payable checks dated August 29 to October 2nd, 2025.
Director Haudecker is available online.
Mark?
Thanks. Sorry about that. I wasn't feeling well, so I kind of left early today. There's not a lot of stuff in there. It's just the usual activities that goes on. We go over some of the stuff. Page 77. There was a period, though, you'll see some large ones. Aline usually does her accounts payable. She was gone for 2 weeks, so we did some stuff in between there, but some of the big ones we kind of left because she kind of has a better idea what's been paid and not paid. So like page 77, Amazon, that's why there's so many of them, 77 to 78, which just happened to fall in that time period. None of them are late, it's just the timing of them.
Okay.
Same thing with page 82, Ingram Library, that's why there's so many of those. Because sometimes we don't want to double pay them, and she kind of makes sure that we're not paying the invoice twice. Page 84, LW Allen, that's kind of the pump repairs, equipment repairs that come up throughout the year. Page 89, TAF outfitting, as the police car, it's a squad that's put into use, so they do all the setup on there. They're out of Oshkosh. It's the first time we used them because they got a better price for us. Page 92, actually Burleson is just a lot of the work that the attorney's working on for us. A lot of tip work involved in there. Underneath that, Barnes, it's just our quarterly, or not quarterly, that would be, I believe, the last. There's one more pickup, brush pickup. So it's just, second to the last pickup cost. Lake Ridge Bank on page 96. Those. Page 104, flow rate, just we're doing some sewer televising. Page 107, Strand, kind of things they're working on, Nichols Road, library HVAC, Southtown improvements. Page 115, Milton Ford and Precious EMS Solutions. A lot of that is a lot of equipment, squad repairs, and so vehicle repairs do add up, which we do budgeted for a lot of repairs in those budgets for police and fire. On page 125, Speedway, sand and gravel, Kelly Place, stormwater. It's ongoing right now, and underneath that is the new Lucas 3 things we just bought with the budget amendment from the last meeting. That's all I have. Any questions or concerns?
Any questions for Mark?
Chair, I can't resist. On page 115, there's an item for $1,300 to Patrick's Funny Farm. What- I was wondering if you know what that is.
That's
nothing to do with
that's
me.
the petting zoo for the fall festival this weekend, actually. It's
Yeah, it's a
Saturday.
petting zoo, it says.
exciting.
Any other questions?
No.
Side business.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to accept?
Move to accept the bills.
Second.
Do I have a second? Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
One accounts are accepted. Thank you, Mark.
Great, thank
I
you.
hope you feel better.
Oh, thanks. Just had a headache, bad headache, so I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Do we have any staff updates?
Just again, apologies for the CIP that will be on both Finance Committee and the council agenda on our meeting in 2 weeks tonight, so.
Yep. Okay.
That's it.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Probably all the Nichols Road questions that gave him a headache. Gave me a headache. Every time I think I understand it, then I get.
No,
then
I
it's like,
don't,
wait a
and
minute.
I think Mark's last thing wasn't